Recording in progress.
I call to order the meeting of our Common Council for Tuesday, January 21. Clerk?
Yes, thank you, Your Honor. All 12 members are present in the room, and all 12 members are voting as civic clerk.
All right, thank you, Clerk. Now please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance and remain standing for an invocation offered by Alder Eck. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Alder Eck.
Thank you, Mayor. Heavenly Father, we pray for us as the members of the Common Council to work together in harmony and cooperation. Bless us with the spirit of unity and collaboration so we may address the issues facing our city with a shared sense of purpose and a commitment to bipartisan solutions. We pray for your insight and discernment to navigate the unique challenges of our community. Bless us with the wisdom to make decisions that uplift and serve our constituents, fostering growth and prosperity. We seek your presence, asking for peace and unity to prevail. May we be instrumental in promoting understanding, cooperation, and a sense of belonging among our community, leading to thriving and harmonious neighborhoods. We come before you with humble hearts, seeking your blessings and guidance. In a world filled with challenges, complexities, and uncertainties, we acknowledge the weight of these responsibilities. Grant us the strength to lead with compassion, the wisdom to make decisions that promote justice and equality, and the courage to stand for what is right, even in the face of adversity. We pray we will keep our motives pure and have integrity in all we do. Grant us wisdom and a heart for justice. Help us to lead with compassion and humility, always seeking the common good. Refresh us as we lead and serve. May we always strive to bring unity and cooperation for the betterment of our city. Amen.
All right, thank you, Alder. Now on to approval of the minutes. Motion to approve made by Alder Prophet, seconded by Alder Stevens. Alder Johnson?
I'd like to make a motion to amend the minutes from January 14th, 2025 to note that Alder Grant was present and voted in the affirmative for the TDA resolution.
All right, Alder Johnson makes that motion. I think there are a couple other resolutions as
Oh yeah,
well.
for all the resolutions. I don't want to speak for Alder Grant, but for those who weren't aware, she was on the call, but it wasn't picked up or she couldn't be heard. So this is just having the minutes actually reflect her presence.
Very well. Motion's made, seconded by Alder Prophet. Any discussion on that? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Minutes are amended. Alder Prophet makes a motion to approve as amended, seconded by Alder Hinkfus. Any discussion there? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The ayes have it, and the minutes are approved from the last two meetings. On to approval of the agenda. Motion to approve made by Alder Prophet, seconded by Alder DeLee. Any discussion here or changes? Seeing none, all in favor will say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The ayes have it, and the agenda is approved. Report by the mayor. We've got a pretty long agenda here, so I'll keep it really quick. A lot of good work was done on the entirety of the agenda, but specifically on Plan Commission. A lot of time and effort devoted to a number of items there by our staff and also by Plan Commission, number of alders involved in some discussions there, as well as community members. So just wanted to thank everybody for all the work that they've done on that agenda, on those items there, and seeking your approval on a bunch of that stuff. So with that, we'll go on to announcements from council. Any announcements? All right. Appointments? Motion has been made to approve the new appointments made by Alder Prophet and seconded by Alder Hinkfus. Any discussion on the new appointments? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The ayes have it, and those appointments are confirmed. On to reappointments. Motion to approve made by Alder Prophet and seconded by Alder Stevens. Any discussion here? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it, and those reappointments are confirmed. Ordinances, second reading for adoption. Alder Prophet makes a motion to suspend the rules and take up these ordinances with one roll call vote. Seconded by Alder Hinkfuss. Discussion here. Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The rules are suspended. Motion to adopt made by Alder Prophet, seconded by Alder DeLee. Discussion here. We'll use the board. All right, and those are adopted unanimously. On to the report of the Redevelopment Authority. Motion to approve made by Alder Eck and seconded by Alder Galvin. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor will say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. That report has been approved. Improvement and Services Committee. Motion to approve made by Alder Eck and seconded by Alder Stevens. Items here to be handled separately. Hearing none, all in favor will say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it, and that report has been approved. Protection and Policy Committee. Motion to approve made by Alder Stevens, seconded by Alder Prophet. Items here to be handled separately. Item 12. Any others?
Mayor.
Alder Johnson.
If the clerk could just note an abstention on number 5. One of the applicants is a minority owner of that business and oversees my compensation.
Very well. Thanks, Alder. So item 12 will be handled separately. Any others? Hearing none others, all in favor of the remainder of that report will signify by saying aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. That report has been approved with the exception of item 12. Your wishes on that, Alder Eck?
I'd like to make a motion to deny the license.
Alder Eck makes a motion to deny. Is there a second for that? Seconded by Alder Grant. Discussion on that, Alder?
Well, I'd like to start off with going to Chief Davis to speak on it, please.
Sounds good. Chief Davis.
Yeah, thank you. And I'm in the process of trying to get some information sent to me from the lieutenant who dealt with this issue. But you know, our look into this establishment turned up some pretty concerning information, and so you know, it's my understanding that our team, and certainly with my support, given the information that we had, recommended denial of this license.
Okay. Alder Eck.
Yes, and based on that information and some other things that were shared, that I think I know that it's been held a couple different times based on like an inspections thing, and they still haven't met those requirements, but there are things. It's the same owner that has another establishment in Green Bay, and that establishment advertises on adult type websites that it's clear the type of activities. And also the same owner owns a spa down in Maryville, Indiana, and there you can actually go and see the reviews. And let's just say it's descriptive of the things that happens at that establishment. So based on that, I recommend denial.
Got it. Thanks, Alder. Any discussion, Alder Hutchison?
Thank you, Your Honor. I'm aware of the concerns stated. The one issue I have, though, is everything that's. I think the commission looked at the application and this business and didn't look at any other business because we were solely, the agenda item was this business and this license. And what the alder is bringing up is relevant to another business located in the city. And I understand her concerns, but we made our decision to recommend holding this until things can be rectified for this business, for this application. So I would be hesitant at this point to vote for pulling the license based on another business, another location.
Okay, thanks, Alder. Other discussion? Alder Grant and then Alder Profit.
I just want to kind of recap of why we brought this ordinance forward and approved it. And when staff is recommending denial because of concerning things, I think we should be listening to that. It's problems like this that we're trying to stop. And the county's even supporting organizations with sex trafficking. There's a reason that we implemented this ordinance. So I think we should follow a recommendation of staff. Thank you.
Thanks, Alder Profit, then Alder Hinkfist.
Yeah, this is for Chief Davis. If you could just clarify, in our agenda packet, it says there's a background check denial for the applicant. However, it doesn't go into any detail of what in particular on that background check was causing the denial. It really just lists that the application contained false information, in particular the address. So just seeking clarification on if this applicant, I also serve on the Protection and Policy Committee, and I'm really empathetic to the language barrier that exists here as well. So just want to make sure that we're giving our applicants a fair shake when it comes to the barrier with the language as well. So if you could just clarify what in particular for this applicant on the background check, since it's not contained in the packet.
Chief Davis.
So I always feel a little bit careful in these situations because you want to be very careful and respectful of the rights of the people involved to not allege criminal activity that people haven't been convicted of. But it looks like our recommendation was based on problems with the inspection issues, and then the association with some places in Missouri, potentially with some concerning issues, and shared ownership in other businesses that then advertise on some of these websites things that, if true, and if what some of these reviews say are true, could be the kind of activity, at least, that we're trying to avoid at these establishments in this city, and certainly, could even be potential criminal issues.
Okay, thank you. And then another just question, since it was brought up. Does this applicant own another establishment within the city, and were they granted a massage establishment license for their other establishment?
That would be probably a question for the city attorney's office. I don't know, or the clerk's office. I don't know the status of all of the businesses that they own.
Okay.
Clerk.
All right, this is Green, right? Thank you, Alder Profit. I actually was opening up the license applications that we have, and we have them by address, not by person. But if you just give me a moment, I can look in our routing sheet and see if the person has another license elsewhere.
Okay, thank you.
That's good. Alder Hinkfist and then Alder Eck.
So this is a different establishment from the one that we discussed a couple weeks ago, correct? Okay, so
Yes.
totally separate. Just wanted to make sure. So the committee had recommended that we hold off till the next meeting, correct? Perfect. Thank you.
Alder Profit, something to add?
Yeah, just to add to that, as the chief mentioned, the denial was based on inspection issues. So we detailed the inspection issues. The applicant who is applying for the massage establishment license doesn't own the property. So she's having to work with her landlord to get the inspection issues resolved with our inspection department, who was present and helped the applicant at Protection and Policy, which is why we were recommending the hold for her to get those taken care of.
Okay.
Thanks, Alder Eck.
It actually does say in the packet that she is the same owner as the day spa. That was, I believe it was the police report that said that. And it is the same owner as the day spa, and the day spa, I'm just going to list off some of the places: bedpage.com, and it says Green Bay Escorts, Rub Maps, Day Spa Massage. So, and it has under their address, their phone number, and the name of the spa. And bodyrubsmaps.com. And if you go to bodyrubsmap.com. There's the pictures that go along with it. Pornography came up on my computer while I was pulling this stuff up. So, and it was actual pornography. So these are the places that the owner who is now wanting to move to a new location is advertising. So she's the same owner. And the same thing with her spa down in Maryville, Indiana. And she still has her address as Indiana.
Got it. Thanks, Alder. Alder Johnson. Oh, before Alder Johnson goes, Clerk Jeffries.
Thank you, Your Honor. So Alder Prophet, Ms. Sheng applied for a license back in the summer at 131 South Military, number 109. And that license was issued in August. You're welcome.
Alder Johnson.
Thank you, Mayor. And I just want to be clear in this. It sounded like Alder Prophet had said, and hopefully I'm capturing this properly, that it was held because police department was recommending denial based on inspections not being completed. However, Chief Davis, you had mentioned a number of other things as grounds for the police department's recommendation. So could we reconcile that?
Chief.
Sure. So I'm looking at the report that the officer wrote regarding the background check for this application. And according to his investigation, one of the things that he did is that he took the telephone number that he was given from the applicant and used that to do a search. Found results on a website called Rub Maps listing the phone number and something called Spa Chi Massage Parlor in Chesterfield, Missouri. We know that Rub Maps is a website that's commonly used to locate illicit massage parlors. The phone number and spa name were also listed on something called adultsearch.com under the heading of, and I'm quoting here, erotic massage parlors in Missouri and happy endings. I know from training and experience that the term happy endings is a term commonly used to describe an act of prostitution that often occurs at the end of a regular massage. A web search using the telephone number listed for the applicant's previous employment at a place called New Spa turned up some ads on a site called Skip the Games with some photos, as well as on something called Bunny Agent, which lists it as, and this is a quote in the report, erotic massage parlor, and stating that they have, and this is also quoted in the report, a secret menu with custom options. This website advertises itself as the world's largest listing of escorts, agency escorts, and other adult service providers. Website Bunny Agent also advertises itself that they are here to show you, and this is a quote, whenever you need call girls, there is no better spot to get exactly what you need. This goes on like this. Again, I want to be very clear that these were things that we found on an internet search, and at this point I'm not comfortable making any specific allegations of criminal activity that has happened under the jurisdiction of the state of Wisconsin involving this person, but just given the advertising in other states associated with this individual, we believe that it is an unacceptable risk to the city to grant this license.
Thank you, Chief. And I appreciate that inspections might be a part of this, but it sounds to me the background check yielded far more red flags that just remain, unaddressed. And so I think for that reason, I can support the denial, also knowing that every applicant has another path, right, to appeal denials. And so if they were to refute any of these recommendations that were founded by our police department, they've got a path to do that. And in fact, we have an applicant later today on the agenda where we're responding to that very process. So thank you, Chief.
Thanks, Alder. Alder Prophet.
So I just have a question. Given now that we've confirmed this is the same business owner that was already granted a massage establishment license at 131 South Military Ave, is there any type of criminal investigation being opened up that would also weigh in on denial since we already approved the same applicant at a different location?
Chief Davis.
I don't know of any criminal investigation that's happening right now. It's possible. Also, I generally try not to comment on open criminal investigations, but there would need to be some allegation of a crime committed with respect to council's, whatever was presented to council to approve this license. I don't know that that's something that we would want to get into. That's a council's discretion whether or not you all want to issue these licenses.
All right. Any other Alder Johnson, then Alder Eck?
I believe the motion on the floor is a motion to deny. Is that correct? I would offer amendment, motion to deny and refer the approved application of the same owner to police department and city staff for further review. This existing owner already has a license, right? Is it closing? Is that confirmed? And even if they close, is the license still issued and able to be used? Yeah, I mean, do these licenses get surrendered, or what would happen? They still remain out there?
Clerk Jeffries.
Yes, thank you. In the massage establishment ordinance, I do not believe there's a surrender section of it, like we would surrender a liquor license. And so, but just know that a license is given to a specific location for massage as well as liquor.
So is this because we all know this ordinance is new, right? We're trying to respond to some of this in real time. Do we need to tighten up that ordinance to address a situation like that where somebody is closing the business but the license is still issued?
So Alder Johnson, staff and I have been working on various changes we'd like to make to the ordinance. We're not ready to present those to council yet.
Yep, understood. So what I want to then, understand right now is if there's merit in referring that other one back to staff for any recommended action, or if it's perfectly okay for us to just leave it out there issued, knowing that that business is closing. I mean, if we're going to deny one, it would seem weird to me that we would leave the other one out there.
Right. Maybe a question for Attorney Bungert. She's on the line.
Yep, I'm on the line.
Is it a
So I would, with that motion, Alder Johnson, I would recommend just a straight denial vote. And if in fact the business itself is closed down, then that or not operational, then that will be something that staff can look into separately. But I would recommend that not necessarily being part of the motion, as any revocation proceedings would be ultimately coming before the body, and so we don't want to have a situation of prejudgment or conflicts created where council is initiating action for revoking a license and then doing the actual review of the revocation.
Okay, thank you, Attorney Bungert. And I'm satisfied with that. I mean, we have the acknowledgement and understanding that you're going to review that part of the ordinance as well as any additional action that needs to be taken. So it was never seconded, so I don't really need to withdraw the amendment.
correct? All right. So we have a motion to deny and a second. Alder Galvin, the question.
This is for Attorney Bungert. I understand your reasoning for separating the amendment that Alder Johnson proposed, and Alder Prophet says it's closing. And my experience, or I'm sorry, someone said it was closing here, one of the alders. But my experience has been, especially when it gets into like taverns and that, we say we're closing, we're kind of closing, we're closed, now we're open again. And I just want to know what staff is going to do and how quickly it's going to do it to start the process of examining this license that's been issued.
I think Attorney Bungert was making the point that we have a revocation process, and so it's not appropriate for us to make that kind of referral.
So staff is going to start that process, I guess.
I don't think we can say that. We have a revocation process, however.
All right. Thank you.
Alder Morgan, then Alder Weary.
Just to clarify, at our protection and policy meeting, the owner was, we opened the floor and the owner that is applying for this one admitted she owned the one on Military. And I asked her if that one was going to stay open, and she said, no, she is closing that down once her lease is done.
Thanks, Alder. Alder Weary.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, this is exactly why we created the ordinance, which is excellent. And so it helps us clean up the trash, which is what we're hopefully going to do here. And so let's send a strong message, unacceptable risk per the chief of police. Thanks.
Thanks, Alder. Alder Hinkfist.
I withdrew it.
Okay, thank you. Again, we have a motion to deny and a second. Any other commentary? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Request has been made to use the board. Motion on denial. And that motion succeeds 11-1. On to report of the Plan Commission. Entertain a motion. Motion to approve made by Alder Stevens. Is there a second? Seconded by Alder Hinkfist. Items here to be handled separately. 1, 3, and 4. Any others? Hearing none others, all in favor of approving the remainder of that report will signify by saying aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The report has been approved with the exception of items 1, 3, and 4. Item 1 is to approve the request to establish a plan unit development located at 1835 Ridge Road and 1820 Frank Street with conditions. Your wishes on that, Alder Prophet? Motion to open the floor, made by Alder Prophet, seconded by Alder Weary. All in favor will say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it, and the floor is open on that item. So if anyone here would like to speak, just approach the podium, state your name and address, and we provide for 3 minutes for testimony. Again, this is for 1835 Ridge Road and 1820 Frank Street.
My name is John Cordry. I have the property at 1288 Thorndale. Is there any way we can get the site plan up on the screen?
I don't believe so. I don't know if there's a way.
Just to show the older folks where my property is.
Okay, that's all right. I mean, you don't need to live anywhere in particular in order to make.
Well, I live right on the site. Anyway, I went to the planning meeting last week, and of course, the planning meetings all along for the past 4 years. Our main concern as a neighborhood, the Thorndale, the Frank Street shadow, was having a driveway access going out onto Thorndale, Frank, and Shadow. I've had the property since 2010 when there was a neighborhood. This was a residential neighborhood, and of course it was bulldozed down. I did not think that as far as putting up high density was a thing, high density living. With the planning meeting last week, I learned that they went ahead with putting the driveway in directly across from my property on Thorndale. As they exit the site, the headlights will come right into my bay window. I thought there was a contingent that planning would not allow that to happen. They would screen headlights, which you can't screen a driveway coming off. And of course, the traffic onto what was once a residential street. Uh, number two, the building heights. The building heights are 50 feet plus, which just hanging right into a residential area, in my estimation, is quite high. Literally, it will blot out the sun at my residence, literally, for months. Where I literally won't get any sun because of this short stay or mini motel right in the corner of Frank Street and Thorndale. Stephanie in planning mentioned that she wanted it to have a inner city feel. Well, this is not inner city. This is actually the opposite. This is on the edge of the city. I understand the importance of that property, with Lambeau being the backdrop. I get it. I'm not against development. I'm not against Mr. Keene developing the property. What concerns me is the way that they're doing it as far as huge, tall building. Literally, the building is right on the sidewalk, no setback. I just feel that it could be done with a little bit of compassion for the existing neighborhood. They could literally go out. They were allowed to go out as far as planning onto Lombardi back in 2016. And I don't believe that was ever looked at. If they went out on Lombardi off of Frank, you could do a couple things. You could alleviate the need for a Thorndale driveway, and you can get it wheelchair accessible. Folks that come to my place for the Packer game can't use that sidewalk area with a wheelchair to get to Lambeau Field. So, you could kill two birds with one stone. So I would ask the council tonight if they could just reevaluate going out to Lombardi and, of course, Ridge, instead of bringing the traffic into the Thorndale, the Frank, and the Shadow areas. Also, there's, as far as green space, very little. I don't think there's much of a thought process on stormwater. They claim they want to go underground holding, but that's not going to work. I do not believe. They're on a hill. Everything's going to run down the hill, cause problems on Frank, Shadow. So, that's, like I said, that's also a big concern. The tall
Sir,
building.
Your 3 minutes have expired. So if members of council have any questions for our guests. All right. Appreciate your testimony.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Cheryl Wolf. I live at 1203 Liberty. I'm a few blocks away from the development, but this will be affecting my neighborhood. I was here back in 2016, and some of the issues that were brought up by the neighbors in 2016 are still issues that we're dealing with in 2024, 2025. This development is even bigger than the original one. The city council back in 2016 had recommended to not have driveways on Thorndale. And there was going to be an exit onto Lombardi. I'm not sure why this new development just doesn't even look at that. So that's one of the concerns, is just traffic coming into our neighborhood. My second concern is just the density. The neighbors, we have not been against the development. Let me get that straight, because there's been a theory going around that the neighbors don't want development. That is as far from the truth as possible. As someone who drives by this property daily, I've not enjoyed looking at this dirt pile for the last 8+ years. We want to see development. We are just asking that it just be cohesive with the rest of the neighborhood. We appreciate the fact that the developer did drop the heights of the building, but when you're, so the building is 50 feet, the office building is 50 feet on Ridge Road. If you're standing on the corner of Frank and Shadow, it's not 50 feet, it's 64 feet. Compare that to the single family homes that are neighboring that. That's a huge difference. And it kind of takes away from the character of our neighborhood. One of the things that when you watch any Packer game, one of the things they talk about is how Lambeau Field is in the middle of a neighborhood. We would just love to keep the character of the neighborhood by having this development be cohesive with what's existing. Another concern I have is on the east corner of the office building, there's a loading dock. Semi trucks use a loading dock. At the Planning Commission meeting, it was mentioned, I brought up the fact that there was this loading dock and was told that trucks were going to enter off of Ridge Road. If you look at the layout, it would be very hard to get a semi into that property off of Ridge Road, especially when there's an easy access driveway on Frank Street. So we're just asking that those things are taken into consideration, maybe put a pause on this development for right now, and maybe just rethink the development in regards to the existing neighborhood. Thank you.
Any questions for our guest? All right. Thank you, ma'am.
Hi. Corey Benke, 1213 Shadow Lane. Dear council members of the Green Bay Common Council, as president of the Lombardi Neighborhood Association, I am writing to encourage the council to vote for Alderwoman Profit's amendment to the zoning action currently under consideration for the planned unit developments at 1835 Ridge, 1820 Frank. Our association has consistently supported responsible development that aligns with the character and needs of our neighborhood. We commend the city planning staff for their responsiveness to community concerns and their efforts to improve the initial PUD. This collaborative approach demonstrates a commitment to thoughtful development. While we recognize the importance of growth, several key issues must be addressed to ensure this proposal truly benefits our community. Environmental impact. To foster a greener environment and reduce the environmental impact of the proposed development, we urge the council to increase overall green space and to vote for Alderwoman Profit's amendment to amend the PUD from 95% maximum impervious surface to 90% or more. Traffic concerns. We understand that traffic calming measures such as neighborhood speed bumps, raised crosswalks, and curb extensions are being considered to limit commercial traffic on Thorndale and Shadow Lane. Some of these measures may be implemented for the first time in Green Bay, and we look forward to collaborating with the City Department of Public Works on their successful implementation. Pedestrian prioritization. To enhance safety and accessibility, we urge the prioritization of pedestrian needs. Key intersections like Lombardi Avenue and Ridge Road should be redesigned with features such as smart crosswalks and integrated sensors to prioritize pedestrian movement and improve overall walkability and safety. In conclusion, while we understand and support the need for development, it must be done thoughtfully and in a manner that preserves the unique character of our neighborhood. Living near one of the world's most iconic sports stadiums creates a special community dynamic admired by residents, NFL players, tourists, and national sports broadcasters alike. It is imperative that this development preserves that unique identity and fosters sustainable, responsible growth that benefits our community. Thank you for considering these concerns. I would appreciate the opportunity to discuss these issues further, and again, urge you to vote for Alderwoman Profit's amendment. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Benke. Any questions? Thank you.
Good evening. Brad Reimer with Veerbecker, representing Tim Keene on this project. I saw the email that made the rounds for the amendment to the motion to approve, and I just want to speak to a couple of those things. It hasn't been made, but I'm assuming that something will be coming forward here shortly. The green space, like he mentioned, at the Plan Commission, they agreed to a 95% impervious maximum. There was discussion between Stephanie and I, and we went down to the 90, which is halfway to where they wanted to be. So we've met them halfway there. 10% green space was we felt sufficient, as did the city staff. the heights of the buildings are crucial to the project. We've already come down. The height of the building on Lombardi was initially 75 for a max. We've come down to 64 at the tallest point. So, like I've said, we've worked with city staff for months, years, I should say, creating this project and getting everything that the city wants, that the developer needs to make it work. Another thing that came up in this last one, but the comments was the access to Lombardi Avenue. That's County Trunk Highway VK. We've applied to the County Highway Department for access, and that was denied. So the access to Thorndale is crucial for the circulation of the project. Other than that, I mean, this is, like I said, we've been working on this for years, pretty heavily in the last few months with city staff. They've been amazing. And I think this could be a very successful project for, like they said, the piles of dirt that have been sitting there for 8 years. So with that, we're here to answer any questions or concerns that the council might have for the developer.
Thanks for your testimony. Looks like we have a few. Alder Prophet, then Alder Hutchison.
Since my name's been invoked a few times here, just seeking clarification. I think I heard you say it, but you worked in collaboration with Stephanie on what's before us tonight has that 95% impermeable surface.
Yeah,
You're willing to go to 90?
Yes.
Okay. Do you foresee that making any substantial impact to what else is before us tonight if you were to go down to 90?
No.
Okay.
Plan Commission and city staff had recommended a 5-foot buffer along a landscaping buffer along Frank, I believe it is. Yep. And then the neighboring property, which sits in the northeast corner, Mike Coppin's project, kind of part of the whole project, but 2 separate PUDs. So there will be some added green space in there as well.
Okay.
So I think we'll exceed. I can't say I know we'll exceed. We'll at least meet the minimum, which is the 10% green space, but I think we'll exceed that with the extended throat on the driveway off of Thorndale as well.
Okay. And then one additional question that was mentioned by a different neighbor tonight. Looking at how the loading dock is situated on Frank and Shadow Lane, could you maybe speak to, I am not a semi driver and I do not look at site plans. Do you envision that semis would be coming from Shadow Lane to position themselves to get into that loading dock?
I honestly don't envision semis coming into this site. I can see large box trucks, something with a smaller turning radius, being able to maneuver in there. If a semi were needed in there, we would make sure that we have the routing, the turn radiuses within the parking lot on site so that they could still access Ridge and exit Ridge.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Alder. Alder Hutchison, then Alder Eck.
Thank you, Your Honor. In terms of green space is desired for 2 reasons. I think 2 main reasons. One is aesthetics, and one is for permeability. Now, it's my permeability of rainfall water. It's my understanding at Plan Commission, there is going to be holding of stormwater underneath the pavement. And not only that, it's going to have the ability to transfer that water into the ground right there. Is that the case? Is that the plan design of that?
Yes, the stormwater management facility will most likely be underground. So any catch basins, storm sewer, anything on the site will route it to the underground storage facility, which will release it cleaner and at a preferred rate into the city storm sewer system, like into Frank Street, or actually I think Frank is where the entrance will be into the city's system. So
Okay.
yes, there's infiltration.
So there's infiltration of that system into the ground. See, what's boggling my mind, that's basically increasing your green space in theory.
Yes.
Okay, so not only are you going to 90, you're going to actually have more green space in terms of permeability than that.
You just won't see it.
You just won't see it. And that's important. That's why I asked the question at Plan Commission and was told, yeah, it'll be permeable, it'll be seeping in. It will alleviate some of the concerns of water being shed off because this is on top of a hill or whatever. So thank you for answering that
Yeah,
question.
we'll capture all the on-site water, route it through that system. That's
Okay.
correct.
Thank you.
And just on that real quick, Director Grenier, if you could just explain generally how stormwater management plans are reviewed by your department.
Sure. What we're looking at are two primary components when we're looking at stormwater. We're looking at quantity of water, so the volume, the amount of water itself, and we're looking at quality. And with quality, we're looking at two primary contaminants, which are phosphorus and suspended solids. Suspended solids management is generally it's time management more than anything. If you can keep the water still, think of getting water out of a mud puddle and putting it into a glass and then shaking it up so it's turbid and it's hard to see through. As time expires, that water gets calm and then the particles settle out to the bottom. In essence, that's exactly how a stormwater management facility works. So if you let the water get to a calm state and give it time, gravity will allow those particulates to filter out. Generally speaking, a lot of times, not always, but a lot of times the phosphorus goes along with some of that particulate as well. So what we're really concerned with on this particular project, redevelopment infill projects, they don't have a lot of contamination as far as phosphorus is concerned, but the sediments from parking lots or things of that nature. We're worried about the solids, but more so the impervious area that generates the volume of water. And the applicant is required to demonstrate that in a developed condition, the site doesn't discharge more water than it did before it was developed. Now, that can be accomplished with green, what we typically consider lawns, gardens, tree beds, that kind of thing, which will allow infiltration of the water into the ground. Or it can be done with essentially a large storage tank. So you store the water, and the exit from that tank is sized small enough that it only lets water out at a certain rate, which would be the rate before development. So you have to obviously have a very large tank because it holds more than it's discharging when there's water flowing into it. From what I'm understanding, the applicant is proposing a combination of that. So it's going to have storage capability and it's going to allow infiltration under to the soil underneath where the tank is located. So what we are looking at in any development, but in particular this one, would be, does it meet those criteria that we have established? Does it retain water or somehow infiltrate water such that the discharge rate after development occurs is at or below the rate that existed prior to development? Not in its prior condition. We're looking prior to development, period. So what we look at, the analogy we use is a prairie, an undeveloped prairie. And then we're also going to be taking a look at what the pollutant loads generated on the site would be. And again, most of that would be dirt or grit from that you find in a parking lot or on a street, which our street sweepers pick up. That's generally what we consider to be a coarse-grained or a sandier type material, which settles out of water very quickly.
Perfect. Thanks so much for that. Alder Eck.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Basically what I'm getting from Director Grenier is the stormwater management will actually be improved in the area. Correct? I mean, it'll be better than it was. I mean, isn't what you agree with that?
Yes.
Okay. Yes. And then I would like to ask about the sidewalk concerns. In looking at the picture, I think the understanding from Mr. Benke that it's not going to be accessible from Lombardi. And I mean, I know this is not probably the final picture, but it doesn't show it at the corner, going to the corner.
Which sidewalk are you referring to? The between Shadow and Lombardi, the short sidewalk, or along Ridge Road?
I was thinking he was talking about along Lombardi, on the corner of Lombardi and Ridge. Or maybe I'm misunderstanding. the concern?
I'm not positive.
Is
So
there access to, like,
yeah,
usually at the corner it goes down and you can
yep.
access it,
I'm not
with a
positive what
wheelchair
that
or
corner
whatever.
looks like, but as part of the TIA, the traffic impact analysis that was done on this whole area,
Mhm.
there were recommendations for improved crosswalks, the traffic calming measures, but part of that would be the enhanced crosswalks, either going across Ridge, across Thorndale, and then across Lombardy. I think that's already improved to be ADA compliant. I think maybe the area he was referring to was that piece between Shadow and Lombardy, which on one end has a ramp, but the other end is just a curb, and then there's a concrete median to get to Lambeau Field. So there's 4 curbs without ADA accessibility there.
Okay, all right.
But
Thank you.
that's another topic of discussion that will be had with Public Works and potentially improving that sidewalk between Shadow and Lombardy.
Okay, kind of
There's
like
still
a
more to be done there. But,
catwalk, as
well,
I call it.
it's a sidewalk right now, but
Yeah.
as you can imagine, there are thousands of people that pour through this 5-foot wide area after
Yeah.
a Packer game, and it gets pretty congested. So I think there's been conversation about potentially doing something to alleviate that as part of this development.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Alder Engfuss?
Thank you. Brian, as part of this development and period that you've been working, from the initial presentation to what we're looking at today, how much consideration have you taken in with the neighbors from the feedback? Because if I'm looking at this, I'm reading it right. You guys cut the size of the buildings way
Yes.
down. You're looking at all of the green space that goes around it, making sure it's permeable. Because right now everything is running off it. I mean, because it's just it's
Correct.
just
And now we're
junk.
talking about capturing it.
And now we're talking about capturing it.
Yes.
So it may help with those down further on Gross and the
It
rest
will
of them
help. Yes.
that have raised it. Okay, thank you. I just want to make sure because as we go along with these, we want to make sure that we're working with the neighbors and neighborhood associations and things
Right.
like that. So, thanks.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Alder Johnson?
Just one quick one. Alder Prophet had alluded to it in anticipation of Alder Prophet's amendment being invoked. If you change the impermeable surface from 95% to 90%, will you have to reduce parking, or is that able to be captured entirely through the existing site?
We'll be able to do that because there were a condition put on about the 5-foot green space buffer along Frank and then the neighboring property. So we would be able to meet the 90.
Okay, thank you. Just wanted to verify.
Thanks. Anything else? All right. Thanks for your testimony.
Thank you.
Anyone else in the audience?
Good evening. My name is Tricia Garrison. I live at 1260 Thorndale Street in Green Bay. Thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight. I really appreciate that we have the opportunity to have our input be heard before important decisions are made. I fully support economic development on this iconic corner with 2 requests. Please put the driveways from Thorndale and Frank over onto Ridge and Lombardy Avenue. Diverting commercial traffic onto a street with an elementary school and headlights going into residential homes feels contrary to public safety and to the spirit of being neighborly. Please place some trees between the commercial development and the residential neighborhood. Many of you I know have indicated your support of green space and how important that is to building a community where people want to live, work, and play. One great example of a really nice transition between a commercial development and a residential neighborhood is over in the Titletown district. It's been very beautifully executed with driveways on Ridge and Lombardy and a really nice green space. I think the same consideration should be given over here on the Green Bay side. Additionally, I have 2 requests for the council, if you would be so kind as to consider. First is that this iconic corner, what happens here will set a precedent for other developments in this area. I would request that you postpone this vote until the city's comprehensive plan has been voted on by you, the council. A comprehensive plan sets out a thoughtful roadmap for a community I believe that you all deserve the opportunity to review and vote on this in a holistic vision for what impact this would have on Green Bay and our region. Making this neighborhood into a downtown district, I think, deserves a little more thoughtful consideration. Second, if you are to partake in any votes this evening, I would respectfully request a roll call vote. What you do here tonight may impact generations to come, and I do have faith that you'll do right by the people who in this community who've placed their trust in you. So again, I request respectfully that you postpone this vote until after you've had a chance to deliberate and vote on your comprehensive plan. Thank you very much.
Any questions for our guest? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
Good evening. I'm Larry Garrison, 2070 Wintergreen Court. My biggest concern is obviously spilling extra traffic onto Thorndale, where my daughter happens to live and walk her dog and bike. Obviously, the flow of traffic will increase not only the noise and the inconvenience, but have a detrimental effect on life altogether. I'm also concerned as to no explanation that I've heard as to why the BC commissioner said there could not be access to Lombardi. That's a major thoroughfare that many other businesses have access to. So why not in this case? Why is it preferred you dump the traffic onto a neighborhood street where there are children and families? So I would urge you guys to hold off on any consideration until you get a very thorough reasoning and evaluation of why the entry into Lombardi was denied. Thank you.
Anything else?
Good evening, everybody. It's been 8 years since I've been last year, so I think the only two surviving are Mr. Galvin and Mr. Weary. So, couple things.
Just your name and address, sir.
My address is 3965 Three Penny Court. I thank you for the opportunity, and I've been a local business owner for 22 plus years at Margarita's. Have a neighborhood that's just as close as the neighbors are here to there, and I've had a great relationship with them, very successful. In fact, we serve over 6,000 guests a week at Margarita's and not had one incident with a neighborhood, and our parking lot is constantly clean. Couple of things that I want to address. One is the building heights. Building heights, we started in 2016 and we had 80 feet. And if we compare that to the Titletown district, you have the venture capital building that is 135 feet high. You have a Titletown Flats building that was used to be Brookwood Residence, 7 stories, over 100 feet. You have Bellin Health that's near 100 feet. You have Lodge Kohler that's nearly 100 feet. I appreciate that, that Mr. Binky and the other neighbors are calling this a world-class development. I really appreciate it. And that's what I've been trying to do over the years. In fact, when I first bought the property in 2014, I bought the front part from Dr. Venisi, which was an 1.5 acre property. It was meant to move the Red Lobster down there because I wanted to improve my business. And so it happened. And then there was another neighbor that was a convenience store. And the 7 houses behind there were not happy with that. So I went and worked with them to see what it was, and they didn't like it. Was zone C1 back then. C1 is Chris, it's a very aggressive zone. It had a lot of different uses that I was able to use there. So I then worked to purchase those other 6 houses and then redevelop it so it would become more. It didn't work out. The Red Lobster was sold to a different company, so that idea fledged. And then, so we now came up with a development to run all across the front. Brown County does not allow, the reason that you can't get a driveway in there anymore is because it's too close to the corner there. And that corner, as a chief would know, you get tons of stacking. And the other one thing that's kind of permeated and it's misinformation is in regards to the Thorndale access. It clearly states in the TIA. That what we've done is, and Steve knows, we've done 3 pages of changes that are working with traffic each side. And the Thorndale access is needed because it'd be highly dangerous to only have 2 entrances on Ridge. And so on Ridge, I've also allowed a turn lane where I'm giving up some of my property for that. In addition to that, there's a sidewalk by the White House on the end down on the corner of Frank and Shadow Lane. It's roughly 5 feet. I've agreed to give up some of my property for that. And, that's the value of that property. To give up to that, you're talking several $100,000s in value to widen the sidewalk, to make it more conducive to the neighborhood. But the traffic, the Thorndale access, the traffic study says 80%. The reason we need that is because people need to get in, because otherwise it's going to make the access along Ridge very dangerous. So people are going to go in. 80% of them are going to go left. They all want to go back to Highway 41. The only people that are going to go through the neighborhood, and this is in the TIA, is the people that live in the neighborhood. People that come from out of town do not know where Oneida Street is. If they use Oneida Street, they're going to go left out of Ridge. In fact, if you Google to get out of the site, what it will tell you to go is a right out of there, a right on Thorndale, a left on Frank, a left on Liberty, and a left on Ridge. So it's actually counterintuitive. This will help traffic. That will actually make traffic go through the neighborhood. So, in regards to what was the docks unloading, I can't speak that every truck driver is gonna go on Thorndale or on Frank, but it makes no sense that they would use the easiest turn radius, which is Ridge Road. So I think that for all you alders who represent all the constituents, it's obvious that 99% of your constituents outside of Chris's alder would be for this project. So I believe it's a mandate. And you guys also with the Green Bay Packers, you've promised your residents development. That's part of your agreement with the Packers, is you want economic development. I have a world-class corner. I appreciate your vote, a new era for prosperity. Thank you.
Thanks, sir. Any questions for Mr. Keene? All right. Okay, great. Thanks, sir.
Yep.
Appreciate it. Anyone else?
Hi, John Schultz, 1755 Chateau Drive. We're on the other side of Ridge, into District 11. This has been 8 years of a gravel parking lot that used to be a commercial lot. My dentist was there growing up. 40 years, that lot has been partially commercial, partially residential. We need to move forward. There's a lot of empty lots over there that are being used for parking lots for 16 weekends a year as a grass parking lot. Let's move forward with this.
Sir. All right, any other testimony? Does not look like it. Going once, going twice. Motion to close the floor made by Alder Johnson, seconded by Alder DeLee. All in favor will say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The floor is closed. I think we're still looking for a motion. Alder Prout.
I would like to just offer a brief amendment. In section 2, part E, number 2, where it states impervious surface shall not exceed 95%, just update that number to 90%. I think we heard from the applicant that it wouldn't affect the project at all, but I do know that it's something the neighbors would be in favor of. So I would just make that motion to amend.
All right, Alder Prophet makes that motion. Seconded by Alder Johnson. Discussion on that? All in favor will say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. That amendment is adopted. Alder Prophet makes a motion to approve as amended. Seconded by Alder Eck. Discussion on that? Alder Weary.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Change is tough. I get it. Nostalgia can be a warm and fuzzy place to exist. It can. It's tough to let go of. I can tell you now, as opposed to 8 years ago, when I guess it was just Alder Galvin and I, a majority this time is in favor of the feedback I have received. Now, if they didn't reach out to me, that's not on me, but of the feedback I've gotten in person, calls, emails, Facebook, people are in favor of it. A lot of people don't want to speak up publicly, but they really want something to go here. In fact, one person who spoke pretty vociferously against it at Plan Commission emailed me recently and said they looked at the plan and they've totally changed their mind, and they like what's going on there. So this neighborhood's had 20 years of growing pains. I think we've all witnessed it, and we've navigated it the best we can. You don't always anticipate what's going to come, but I think it's a beautiful, attractive area, and it's going to continue to be that way. The Lombardi neighborhood, if you think of it on a line here from Ashland all the way up to Ridge, is huge. It's over a mile long. And so for people to say we're changing that neighborhood, we're talking about the corner way up here on Ridge, not all of this neighborhood. And it's a part that was commercial already. So we're not plunging a heart into the sacredness of this neighborhood. We're adapting to the present and the future like we have to. Lots of notes here, but I know people commented on water, and we talked that one to death. I think what we're doing here with the stormwater management is going to greatly help that neighborhood to the east. We've talked about it. I don't think I need to say any more on that. The traffic plan, as opposed to, I think, 8 years ago, this traffic plan is sound. I like that we're recommending all those calming measures, maybe reducing the width of the street or putting the measures to slow speeds. I'm glad we've adopted that as a city council now to use those measures. I think you can't overlook tax revenue. Right now, that corner collects about $50,000 a year in taxes, roughly. And with this project, I confirmed with our finance director, it'll be anywhere from $500,000 to $800,000 in taxes. That's a huge increase, and that's what helps offset our residential taxes when we can grow our tax base and help keep everything else low. So anytime we can do that, it's really, we need to seriously look at it. I did have to mention the science-y part of me, the shadow part. The sun goes east-west, right? And so it goes over the houses. It will not be behind this building. I live over there. Maybe if it's at a 70-degree angle, then you might have I think I did the math here, it's like a 28-foot shadow. So it'll reach halfway into the road. So it's just important to realize it's not going to cast a shadow on the neighborhood, maybe halfway through the road at a certain point of the day. Maybe. I think that's very important. I'm glad we made the amendment. I think staff's done a lot of work on this. I think the developer has heard the feedback, especially from 8 years ago in the neighborhood meetings they had. I'm fine with this, and I'm ready to move forward with it. Thanks.
Thanks, Alder Johnson.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a couple of quick questions. Director Grenier, around the denial for the entryway onto Lombardi, do you have any knowledge or maybe even context of why Brown County might make that decision?
I don't. If I were to hazard a guess, it would be due to the geometrics of Lombardi Avenue and the sheer number of lanes out there. An entrance coming off of Lombardi in this portion, anywhere from Oneida out to US 41 or I-41, would involve what we refer to as weaving movements. So it's a 3-lane facility. Imagine somebody on the innermost lane looking ahead, seeing a sign and saying, I need to get to that business, and trying to cross 2 lanes of traffic to get in there. Similarly, I believe that section of Lombardi has a raised concrete median in it, so you would not be able, it would be right in, right out only. It's too close to the Ridge Road intersection to allow for a gap in the median to make left turns in or out of that facility. That would be inherently unsafe, especially given the size of the Ridge intersection.
Okay. And notwithstanding, of course, I mean, any of the determining factors of why Brown County made that decision, I think our ordinance setback requirement is 200 feet. Is that right?
Well, it's speed dependent. So with the speeds, the posted speeds on Oneida, it might actually be more. But again, that point is kind of rendered moot because we don't have the access control that resides 100% with Brown County.
Okay. Thank you. And then the other suggestion that had been brought up, and I just want to broach it here, was regarding improved crosswalk redesign. Now, I don't necessarily think that would be the burden of the developer, but could you maybe talk through, whose responsibility it is? That's kind of like a weird jurisdictional no man's land, sometimes not no man's land, but jumps from different jurisdictions, right?
Well, it would, depending on where exactly we're talking about. If we're talking about pedestrian accommodations that cross Ridge Road, those are under the purview of the city of Green Bay. When we're talking about pedestrian accommodations crossing Lombardi Avenue, that would be under jurisdiction of Brown County. So it's going to require coordination between our two departments, which thankfully we've got a great relationship with our friends at Brown County. So we can do that. That's not a problem. Historically, going back to at least early 2000s when there was a Walmart contemplated at the corner of Huron Road and East Mason on the far east side of the city. The increased traffic there was going to require some changes to signals all the way back at East Mason at I-43. And the city had identified that because using a but-for analysis, but for that development, the enhanced traffic signals would not be necessary. Therefore, they became a developer's responsibility. The fact that this applicant is willing to talk about participation in some of those enhanced pedestrian movements that might be resulting from his development, there will be a shared approach there.
Sure, but given the fact, and I appreciate that example, given the fact, though, that this would require Brown County participation, it seems to me that would be a difficult thing to mandate within a PUD without knowing how Brown County would even react to such a request.
Correct. I don't know that a requirement. I would think listing those, some of those conditions in the traffic impact analysis that are listed. And bear in mind, the TIA provides recommendations. It doesn't necessarily state anything is an absolute. What they're saying is best practice would be to do some of these things. Those that lie solely within our jurisdiction, I think we can put in the PUD because we have control on that. And then I would offer that anything that requires participation with Brown County or other jurisdictions to list it that applicant and city will work toward cooperation with those other contributing agencies consistent with the PUD.
Okay, thank you. So there's just a couple questions that I had. Thank you, Director Grenier, again for providing context. And I think we do these developments, and there's always a little bit of room and space for follow-up work afterwards. Where the city maybe has a role to play. Working with another county government, another government there could be a role to play. And so I'm comfortable with it the way that it is right now, knowing that there's some space there to continue those conversations. At a later date once this gets underway. And I want to just first off thank the neighbors, right? Sometimes these things come forward and some neighborhoods are quiet and others are more impacted and neighborhoods are more organized and we get more feedback. And so, but when neighborhoods are active and they're engaged, we get better products, we get better developments. And so I do want to thank the neighbors because if you think back to 8 years ago or even the original proposal that came out in the fall, it was enhanced and it was improved and it was improved because of neighbor feedback. And I do want to thank the developer as well because you could have given up on this 8 years ago and you came back and we appreciate that you're willing to continue to do business with the city of Green Bay. And so a lot of times we look at this and I hope folks that go through this process can kind of see sometimes the dilemma that we're put in, right? Where we're trying to, be the the scale of justice here and figure out what's right for the neighborhood, what's right for the city, what's right for the developer. And sometimes those things are in conflict with each other, and it's really challenging. And as Alder Weary stated, we've received a lot of online comments that we've read through, and obviously a lot of comments today. And and sometimes again, you have parties that are in opposition of each other, or maybe they have ideas that are in conflict with each other. But what I've learned over time is that oftentimes concerns are rooted in the unknown, and maybe a fear of the impact of something. And when we can talk about it and we can share facts, I think it helps alleviate those concerns. And I know stormwater was one that came up, and we don't need to beat it to death, right? But sometimes I think old habits are, if I can't see the stormwater retention pond, there's not a stormwater solution. And of course, here we heard of an example that's actually more impactful than a stormwater pond. But the reason a lot of people don't do it is because it's more expensive. Stormwater ponds are easier to do, especially when you have available land to do it. In a tight lot like this, the underground type of system made a lot of sense. Even things like green space, I like the amendment, particularly since they can accommodate it. But right, if you go further with that amendment, now you're taking away from parking, right? When we've had folks that have said we want more parking. And so those are examples of things that sometimes can be in conflict. But we really go through this. I hope people would agree in a very thoughtful manner. And we request things like traffic studies. Those are not cheap, $20,000 to $30,000 probably to do the traffic study. People who dedicate their lives to traffic, I don't know who does that, but we appreciate them. And they put a lot of experience and scientific data behind how they make these recommendations. And they're not absolute, but a lot of times they put percentage certainties to these things. I think our challenge and struggle sometimes is to balance sort of fact and fiction. And what I mean by that is, hey, the traffic study gives us fact, right, of where traffic flows are going to go. The fiction might be, oh, I don't believe that they're going to go this way, right? And I think we've got to rely on some level of information and data sometimes to help us make these good decisions, while acknowledging those anecdotal experiences from the neighborhood oftentimes do influence the outcome or can allow us to massage something. So again, just really appreciate the thoughtful work that everybody put into this, from staff to the neighbors to the developer. But I think a lot of concessions have been made to get us here. And I think it's important that we find a way to get development done in Green Bay that, really allows us to move forward. So I'm going to support this. I think it's good the way that it's presented, especially with the amendment, and would encourage other alders to do the same.
Thanks, Alder. Anything final from our council? Alder Hinkvist and Alder Galvin.
I just want to say that I'm really excited about this development for the city of Green Bay. That area, that corner, has been an eyesore for how many years? And what really made this project, I think, as good as it is, are the people of Green Bay. So all of the neighbors that got engaged, the developer that listened, and all of the constant communication that is going forth. So I just want to say, from a city perspective, anytime we're doing these developments, the neighbors, the people involved, and the impact has always been critical to us here at City Council. And the berms and the green space are also critical so that we can make the neighbors and the neighborhood look good. So I believe that the city will do right by that, along with the developer, and I again urge everybody to approve.
Thanks, Alder. Alder Galvin.
Thank you, Your Honor. 8 years ago, just kind of cutting my teeth on this council, and I sat down to this buzzsaw of a confrontation between the neighbors and the developer. And it was interesting to listen to both sides speak. Let's improve our area, let's add on to the business, the tax base, and then at the same time, let's protect our neighborhoods. And as we look back over the last 8 years, the stadium has been greatly improved too, added on to how many times. The development west of Ridge Road, I remember that was just one-story strip mall type buildings, gas stations. You look at what has happened in the last several years there. The Packers own a large chunk of land between St. Agnes Drive and Lombardi west of Ridge Road. And I imagine they have thoughts pertaining to that property. The south side of Shadow Lane, how those homes have changed so much, and I'm sure the neighbors have their thoughts on how that has changed their neighborhood and the impact it's had on them. But at the same time, like it's been mentioned here before, we have listened to the neighbors. Alder Prophet's amendment, the developer, 3 pages of changes. This retention, again, not to beat a dead horse. I'm like, this is cool, and we need to start thinking about doing this for other developments because this will help that neighborhood out. They're not getting everything they want, and the developer's not getting everything he wants. And I think that's kind of what makes this community great, is that we're able to come together and work out some of our differences. We're not going to go home totally happy with each side here, but I think this is for the best. I have to keep reminding myself, this was commercial property. It was commercial property for many, many, many years. It's going to be commercial property yet it's going to improve our community. And I believe, and that's why I'm going to vote in favor, because I believe that's what we're going to see when this is done. Thank you.
Thanks, Alder. Anything else from our council? All right. I think we have a motion to approve as amended. Alder Weary? Very well. So we will use the board on that motion to approve as amended. All right. And that is approved unanimously. Thanks again to all of our residents for coming up and offering testimony. Really value that. With that, we'll move along to item 3, which is to approve the request to amend the Smart Growth 2022 Comprehensive Plan for 500 Day Street from future industrial land use to downtown land use. That was pulled by Alder Prophet.
Make a motion to open the floor.
Motion has been made to open the floor by Alder Prophet, seconded by Alder Weary. All in favor will say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The floor is open.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. My name is Chris Brennan. I'm the Public Affairs Manager for Georgia Pacific. I'm representing Georgia Pacific 1919 South Broadway as an address. Related to our 500 Day Street property and the proposed adjustment, Georgia Pacific seeks to practice good stewardship in managing and disposing of our closed properties, which includes getting them back into a productive use for the community. At this time, we haven't evaluated the Day Street site for uses other than industrial, and the cost of redevelopment to the uses contemplated by the proposed amendment change is very dependent on specific redevelopment plans. Georgia Pacific is not opposed to different uses. However, we have a real concern that if the site fails to attract an investor for the allowed uses based on the proposed amendment, it could remain stagnant for potentially many years. This condition would not accomplish the vision of the downtown district, nor would it provide the jobs and tax base of an operating industrial facility. Our objective is to continue to have collaborative conversations with the city to ensure that any future use is physically and financially feasible and mutually beneficial to the community, Georgia Pacific, and the potential buyer. Before rezoning, please take time to explore the feasibility of what the city is trying to do with this space. Work with Georgia Pacific to consider proposals and rezone specific to those objectives. Thank you.
Thanks for your testimony. Any questions from our council? All right. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Anyone else on this item? All right. Motion to close the floor made by Alder Prophet, seconded by Alder Weary. All in favor say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Floor is closed on this item. Motion or discussion? Alder Prophet makes a motion to approve, seconded by Alder Galvin. Discussion on that motion? Alder Johnson?
Yeah, did you want to speak on this first, Alder Prophet? Well, it's your district. That's why I'm deferring to you. So, but you were staying quiet. So, okay. I just wanted to let the council know. And first off, I want to thank Mr. Brennan for coming from GP. Where did he go? There he is. And obviously sharing his perspective. And we've had some really good conversations since the Plan Commission. We met today in the mayor's office with Community of with Cheryl and Matt from the department. You guys got to shorten that. Department of Community and Economic Development. And Mr. Brennan, and some other reps from Georgia Pacific out of Atlanta, as well as Colliers, who has the property listed. And I think we really felt, at least I hope, we had a good mutual understanding of what each of us was looking for and the impacts, of course, of this decision. And I think we have a follow-up meeting perhaps set up for Thursday. And so we are continuing to have those conversations. You know, I want to make sure that we aren't making a rash decision that negatively impacts property owners, especially someone, you know, who has been a significant investor here in Green Bay. However, in this instance, I want to remind council that it does require 2 readings, and because it is a comp plan adjustment, it requires a 30-day wait in between. And so March 4th would be a second final reading if this were approved today. And so, you know, I think for me, I have to think about the best interests of the city, right? And how do we do that? And I think moving forward today gives us more options on March 4th, so that if we do want to delay it or we want to modify it, we can do that. But we have to take the first step to be able to get to that second step. So I would support this change today, contingent, and I won't add this as an amendment, but contingent that we do continue those conversations with Georgia Pacific and their partners to make sure that we're in alignment with a real positive outcome for that site.
Thanks, Alder. Alder Prophet.
Yeah, I would just agree with what Alder Johnson just stated and appreciate giving the context that the comp plan changes has to have that 30-day. So I think we'll continue those really productive conversations about the future of this site. But for now, I think the best move forward is to at least get us through this first vote in favor. And then if we have different discussions or want to have further conversation, we can have that hash out at the March 4th meeting.
All right, thanks, Alder. Alder Hutchison.
I was on the Plan Commission. I am on the Plan Commission. Thank you, Your Honor. And I voted against this because I wanted to make sure Georgia Pacific, the owner of the property, got a fair shake. They had just gotten their corporate structure, just got a letter 5 days before the Plan Commission meeting. And so I was very concerned that we weren't treating a really good company within the city of Green Bay very well. Since then, I've had communications with city staff. There has been communication with Georgia Pacific. It's going back and forth. So I'm willing to vote for this now with the contingency that this discussion is ongoing and that we work something out that's mutually beneficial. Thank you.
Thanks, Alder. Any other comments on the motion? Alder Eck?
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, it is. I look at this as a tough one. I was at the Planning Commission, so I totally understand what Alder Hutchison was talking about. I agree that I think this is the best for the city, but it's really tough when you're telling the business that owns it, you know, kind of what to do as far as their future. And it sounded like they might have some offers, so it is a tough thing. But I think I'm in agreement that moving forward now doesn't close the door. We can still have conversations down the road. Thank you.
Thanks, Alder. Anything else? Seeing none, all in favor will say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it, and that item has been approved. On to item 4, also pulled by Alder Prophet.
So.
Great. Alder Prophet makes a motion to approve. That was seconded by Alder Galvin, and that's to approve the request to rezone 500 Day Street. Alder Johnson on that.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. And I support this approval too. However, there's 2 things I wanted to point out. One is we have, you know, in our conversations with Georgia Pacific, we did talk about that site could potentially be used for some downtown zoning or mixed use while allowing for other light industrial uses. But because it is one parcel, that's why we have to choose one zoning designation. And this particular zoning designation is what gives the city sort of that highest and, you know, best use for that particular site. The other thing that I would maybe ask staff, and it could be premature, but maybe it's a good time to bring it up that if closed session language could be added to this item on March 4th, if we need it, it's there. If we don't, right, no big deal. But I think that depending on how these conversations go over the next month, it's very possible that there might be some things we could discuss that help guide that final decision.
Appreciate that, Alder Johnson. Any other comments? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The ayes have it, and that item has been approved. So that takes care of Plan Commission. On to report of the Finance Committee. Motion to approve made by Alder Stevens, seconded by Alder Galvin. Items here to be handled separately? 9. Any others? Hearing none others, all in favor of approving the remainder of that report will signify by saying aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The report has been approved with the exception of item 9. Your wishes on that, Alder Prophet?
So before I make a motion to open the floor, I'd just like to state on record, we're just looking at a referral to staff here. I think there was a lot of good discussion at finance, but not a lot of answers. So I think a referral to staff is the appropriate move here. But respecting the members of the community that have reached out and asked us to open the floor, I'll just make the motion to open the floor.
All right, motion has been made by Alder Prophet to open the floor, seconded by Alder Johnson. All in favor will say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The floor is open. So again, for anyone who'd like to testify, just state your name and address, and you got 3 minutes.
For all the times I've been in this room, this is actually the first time I've ever spoken at this microphone. Yeah. My name is Laura McCoy. I live at 740 South Jackson Street in Green Bay, and I am the current president of the Green Bay School Board. I'm going to try to keep this real short because I know you have a long night. I'm here on behalf of our board to request that the City Council support our resolution that we passed in November of 2023 and agreed to put an additional line on property tax bills that indicate the amount taxpayers pay for vouchers. I'll just let you know that this year alone, our district is going to lose $12,776,000 to vouchers. So what we do then is we turn around and we levy for that locally so that that money isn't lost to our budget. I feel like we ask a lot of our taxpayers. In the last, I think, 8 years, we've done 3 referendums. And our people and our citizens and our property taxpayers step up again and again for us and for our kids. And the very least we can do is give them a tax bill that's accurate and truthful. And that's why we passed this resolution. And that's what I'm asking of the City Council to support that.
Thanks for the testimony. Any questions for our guest? All right. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Dawn Smith. My address is 1100 Kellogg Street, and I am the president of the League of Women Voters of Greater Green Bay. I listened to your meeting where you had this exact same proposal to bring this to staff last January. There was a lot of swirl. There was conversation about this being an attack on voucher schools. There was a conversation about open enrollment. And I just wanted to share my thoughts as a taxpayer. This isn't an attack on voucher schools. I don't think the city of Green Bay was attacking education when they separated and put a line at the bottom of the property tax bill for how much money goes to, I think it's Green Bay schools is exactly what it says. It was giving information to taxpayers. Open enrollment is an issue that Green Bay schools needs to deal with, but open enrollment is taxpayer dollars going to public schools. There's a difference between public schools and voucher schools in their accountability, who they accept or have to enroll, and how per pupil funding is handled. And I think that difference is enough that I, as a taxpayer, would like to see it broken out on my tax bill. I think this is a question about visibility and letting taxpayers know how their money is being spent. I don't see this. I'm a proud 1988 graduate of St. Jude Parochial School. Um, I went to private school. I don't have an issue with private schools at all. This is just giving visibility to taxpayers as to how the government is choosing to spend their money. Thank you.
Thanks for your testimony. Any questions? All right. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Jennifer Garner, and I live at 718 Dousman. I appreciate having the opportunity to address you tonight. I was surprised last year to learn that the City Council punted on an opportunity to share information on our tax bill about how tax dollars are spent on private schools in our community. Information about every other educational entity is delineated in the bill. Usually when elected officials refuse to disclose information to the public, it suggests they have something to hide. I'm going to assume that this request goes beyond what you usually have to consider when adhering to open records, open meetings, and other requests for information, and you needed time to deliberate on your responsibilities as elected officials in being open, accountable, and honest with Green Bay taxpayers. This is an unusual situation. I know of no other private entity that receives tax dollars that are not subjected to oversight by elected officials. As a taxpayer, I want to know where my tax dollars are going. As the level of government that's closest to providing citizens that information, we turn to you to keep us informed. Consider this. If the state legislature decided that there were aspects of city government that could be done more efficiently by a private management company, and they directed that $12 million per year be skimmed from your budget, would the taxpayers of Green Bay be entitled to know where those tax dollars went? I understand that tonight you want to vote to send this to staff to study so you can determine the cost of adding one line of information to our tax bill. I ask you this: how much is too much to provide clear, easily understood information on how our tax dollars are spent? Do you have a dollar figure that you think would be prohibitive? I'll be interested in seeing the results of this study and compare it to like services that the city provides. Again, thank you very much for affording me this opportunity to talk to you.
Thanks for your testimony. Any questions?
Thanks.
All right. Thank you.
Hi, good evening. My name is Karen Schley. I live at 820 Ethel Avenue on Green Bay's west side. Many of you recognize me as a regular attendee of the city council meetings, and in the past, I have worked at City Hall helping to collect the property taxes for the city. As a member of the League of Women Voters, I am here to address a subject that is of concern to the League. We feel that the citizens and taxpayers of the city of Green Bay have the right to know what happens with their tax dollars. Currently, the property tax bill shows the amount that goes to the city, the county, NWTC, and the public school system, but does not show the amounts that are given to private schools and the amount of vouchers. This is our money, and we feel we have a right to determine if we are willing to subsidize private schools. We are requesting that the tax bills reflect how much our money is going to support these private schools. It is our money and is our right to say how it is spent. Thank you.
Thanks for your testimony. Questions? All right. Thank you. Anyone else? All right. Seeing no one else. Motion to close floor made by Alder Prophet and seconded by Alder DeLee. All in favor say aye. Opposed nay. The ayes have it. And the floor is closed. Alder Prophet.
I think as I alluded to in my comments before we opened the floor, we're just looking at a referral to staff here this time. I think there was a lot of good questions asked at finance, and there's no reason that we can't get those answered. So I'm definitely supportive of that referral tonight.
Okay. Alder, is that a motion?
Yeah, make a motion to refer to staff.
Alder Profit makes that motion to approve and refer to staff. That was seconded by Alder Galvin. Discussion on the motion. Seeing none, all in favor will say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The ayes have it, and that item has been referred to staff. Next up is the Park Committee.
Motion approved.
Motion to approve made by Alder Profit, seconded by Alder DeLee. Any items here to be handled separately?
One.
Item 1. Any others? Hearing none others, all in favor of approving the remainder of that report will signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The report has been approved with the exception of item 1. Alder Johnson, your wishes there?
Would make a motion to amend to authorize the purchase of the container bar, 4-barrel used refrigerated draft coolers, 2-door used stand-up refrigerated package cooler, delivery and install for 2 semi-trucks, and an additional $2,000 allocation for a total up to $55,000.
All right. Alder Johnson offers that amendment to the motion. Is there a second for that? Seconded by Alder Profit. Discussion on that, Alder Johnson?
Yeah, I would just explain this. So I think I shared some of my comments at Parks Committee. I met with Assistant Director James Anderson today to kind of talk about where I think some of my concerns are. And while I certainly don't want to speak for everyone else on council, I know I've had other conversations as well. This particular thing is its permanent home is really, I'll call it semi-permanent because it's really meant until phase 3 happens at the shipyard, right? But it's really meant to go there. The hope is that if it comes here, if this is approved, right, they would order it and it would get here in time for the Draft City music events, and then it could potentially be used at Light Park over the summer months. Just after having some conversations and wanting to find the middle ground here, a lot of these other enhancements are things that are nice to haves and probably not critical to the success of the actual container itself, and recognizing that the permanency of some of these investments, particularly for the shipyard site, might look a little different than what's on here. And we can probably use this at Light Park in sort of an ad hoc capacity this summer, utilizing some of our already existing assets, parks department, picnic tables, things of that nature. So that's why I did also suggest that we leave that additional $2,000 discretion item in there to maybe backfill things like signage or things that are really necessary to still make it functional. But that's ultimately why I made the motion, because I want to make sure that once it's moved to the shipyard, that we're making really good decisions for the things that really fit well with the shipyard versus the temporary use at Lake Park.
Thanks for those comments, Alder Johnson. Additional comments or questions? Alder DeLee, then Eck.
Could you just go over, Alder Johnson, what you were including in that?
Yep, it's the first 3 things. So if you're looking at the list, it is the 2-story container bar and then the refrigerated units, right on line 2 and 3. And then when you look down below, there's delivery and install. So Mr. Anderson thought that because if we remove some of these other items, that would probably be 2 semi-trucks, right? That would be required rather than 3. So that's why I kind of split that price up. And then I added the 2,000 in. And just as a reminder as well, right? This still generates revenue, right? Which I think is ultimately a good motivator to do something like this. Whereas these other things, like I said, are nice to haves. Don't really drive the revenue piece.
All right. Any other questions, Alder DeLee? Nope. Alder Eck?
I was going to ask for that too. So thank you. But one of the things, the 20-foot new storage container of 6,500, strongly recommend this. That was not in your list. So if we could maybe ask, and I'm going to assume it's going to be Deputy Director Anderson that would be having the answers to that as to, why it's strongly recommended.
That's good. Mr. Anderson.
Yeah, when we were talking with this, the hot group, they just said based on their experience, based on what they've seen from other places when they do put this storage unit. And it also, it looks, it's the same colors and as the other container. So it looks really good as well, but it just houses all of these other amenities and things that you would see at an event or at, whether it's, some of these things that you're taking out would also probably be stored in there. But we're still gonna, like you said, bring stuff in for these different things, and it's just really nice to have a storage area for those items.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments on the amendment? Alder Hutchison.
So this is going to generate money, and excuse my ignorance, but how does this generate money? I mean, is the city selling beverages through this? Okay. And this would be a focal point for like music and that type of thing?
Yeah, I think we can go to Deputy Director Anderson to describe what we're thinking in the short term and long term for this, for the container.
So short term, I don't know if you heard, but the NFL draft is coming to town, and we're going to do a couple music festival events in conjunction with that. So we'd utilize it for those events on April 23rd and 26th. And then we'd also, the next phase of this would be determining, if we essentially run this container bar, if we work with some of our existing partners and other relationships that we have established to utilize for different events throughout the summer at Light Park temporarily. And then the intent would be to move it over to Shipyard, and kind of in conjunction with, I guess, phase 2 in lieu of, looking forward to phase 3.
Okay. Very good. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Alder. Any other comments? Seeing none, all in favor will say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The amendment is approved. Motion to approve is appended, made by Alder Profit, seconded by Alder DeLee. Discussion on that. Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it, and that item has been approved as amended. On to the report of the Personnel Committee. Motion to approve made by Alder Profit, seconded by Alder Eck. Items here to be handled separately. Hearing none, all in favor will say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. That report has been approved. Traffic, Bicycle, and Pedestrian Commission. Motion to approve made by Alder Eck and seconded by Alder Stevens. Items here to be handled separately. Hearing none, all in favor will say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it, and that report has been approved. Sustainability Commission. Motion to approve made by Alder Profit and seconded by Alder DeLee. Items here to be handled separately. Hearing none. All in favor will say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it, and that report has been approved. Equal Rights Commission. Motion to approve made by Alder Profit, seconded by Alder Presley. Items here to be handled separately. Hearing none. All in favor will say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. That report has been approved. Next, we have two informational items. Building report for December 2024 and the municipal court report for December 2024 included in the packet. Next up is Committee of the Whole for consideration and possible action in the litigation matter of Harris v. City of Green Bay. Motion to approve made by Alder Stevens, seconded by Alder Hinkfus. Any discussion here? Alder Eck?
I believe there was, we had gotten a message from the attorney with specific wording, so I didn't know if we had to say that or, gosh, I have to find it. The motion would be,
Yeah, we
trying
could
to find it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Attorney Bungert, any specific language necessary here?
Yes, just a motion to proceed as advised by the city attorney would be appropriate.
Very good.
Thank you.
Alder Eck, you making that motion?
Yes, I'll make that a motion to proceed as advised by the city attorney.
Seconded by Alder Stevens. Any discussion on that? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it, and that item has been approved. On to resolutions. Motion to suspend the rules, take up these items with one roll call vote made by Alder Profit, seconded by Alder Stevens. Any discussion there? Seeing none, Alder Johnson.
If is it possible to just ask questions on one of those items?
Sure.
I'm still okay if it's within the grouping, but okay. Director Grenier, just because I think several of us probably have received some questions on this regarding the number of streets being done in our community. Of course, this resolution has pavement, resurfacing, right? And obviously we can see there are a number of streets included on this. Does this include the bonding number as well as the resurfacing number? Right, like that we budgeted. Like, could you maybe just help us understand where the funding sources for each of these are and how these are being completed this year?
For resolution number 6?
Correct. Sorry, I know I'm catching you off guard on this one.
The resolution number 6 is relative to streets that were constructed in 2024.
Okay, so these are the streets that are already closed, and this is the resolution for...
This resolution accepts the streets, and if there are any outstanding assessments not covered by the wheel tax, authorizes those assessments to be levied.
Right. So these are all complete, though, as of
these are complete
the end of
streets.
24.
Yes.
Okay. And I know there's another list for 25, but I appreciate that clarification. So thank you.
Okay, great. The motion is suspension. All in favor will say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The rules are suspended. Motion to adopt made by Alder Prophet, seconded by Alder DeLee. And any discussion on that? We will use the board. Those are adopted unanimously. On to the quasi-judicial hearing, findings of fact and conclusions of law. The item is to adopt the findings of fact and conclusions of law for the revocation of massage establishment license held by Lukwexy Therapy LLC at 989 West Mason Street. Motion to adopt made by Alder Eck, seconded by Alder Stevens. Attorney Bungert, anything on this?
Nope, just a straight up or down vote will be appropriate.
Very good. All right, any discussion on that? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it, and that motion is adopted. Ordinance is first reading. Alder Prophet makes a motion to suspend the rules with the exception of item 3. Take all these up with one roll call vote. Is there a second? Seconded by Alder Johnson. Discussion. All in favor will say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it, and the rules are suspended for all of those items with the exception of item 3. Motion to advance made by Alder Prophet. Seconded by Alder Weary. Alder Eck.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want a clarification because I know that they were like connected. And then your amendment was for the 90%, but there's, it's 2 PUD. So it's only, the amendment was only for the one. So they don't have to. Okay. All right. Just want to make sure. Thank you.
All right. Any other discussion? Seeing none, all in favor will say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it, and those items, with the exception of item 3, have been advanced to second and final reading. Now on to Y3.
Make a motion to approve or amend, PUD section 2 part E number 2 to take it from 95 down to 90% on that line item.
All right, Alder Prophet makes that amendment, seconded by Alder Johnson. Discussion on that? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The amendment is adopted.
Motion to advance as adopted or as amended. It's been a long day.
Yes. Alder Prophet makes a motion to advance as amended, seconded by Alder Presley. Discussion there? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. That item has been advanced as amended. Petitions and communications. Adjournment. Motion to adjourn made by Alder DeLee and seconded by Alder Eck. All in favor say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. We're adjourned. Thanks, everyone.
Recording stopped.
That resolution took me off guard because
Yeah.
I thought it was like 25 years. Right. And then he just pushed me.
I would have been able to tell you what that was.